So what's on my mind these days? Hard to be a medical school dean in the spring of 2025 and not be thinking about all the changes coming out of Washington that affect us in science, in healthcare, and in education. All of the changes underway at NIH, FDA, CDC really affect us in ways that cross all three of our missions. If we think about the care mission, we have to think about changes underway at CMS. Now, we've not seen a lot of the changes yet being proposed in Medicare or Medicaid, but we certainly know they're being discussed. And those are critically important potential changes for us because we want to make sure that we have open access to all patients who need our help. On the research front, it's been very, very challenging as we see both changes within the NIH structure with longtime NIH leaders departing, but also great uncertainty as to what the priorities are going to be for the next NIH director. We certainly want to see where the NIH is going so that we can understand what are the opportunities for Weill Cornell medicine investigators, but we're just not there yet. And that creates a great deal of stress and anxiety. We've had cancellation of certain grants that also are troubling and are leaving people without funding to do the work that they really need to do and they want to do. And then finally, on the education front, there's all sorts of things that we're thinking about. We're thinking about the safety and protection of our students. We're thinking about what's in our curriculum. We're thinking about how do we train the scientists and the doctors of tomorrow, and how do we do that that's in keeping with current law, with current executive orders, while being true to making sure that we're delivering on our missions of care, discovery, and teaching. There are a few things better in the academic medical campus calendar than Match Day, and this year was no exception. Match Day, for those of you who aren't aware, is the day when the medical students, the graduating medical students, find out where they've matched, where they'll be going to do their internship and in some cases also their residency. It is a fun day, it's an exciting day. It is the culmination of a lot of hard work for our students, for our faculty, for our staff that supports the students and the faculty, and for the families and friends of our graduates. It's a day full of emotion as they wait to literally open up an envelope that's going to provide them with the name of the institution to where they'll be going. It's also a day filled with just, unbridled joy. There's tears, there's champagne being opened up, there's smiles and hugs and handshakes. I'm not sure that there's a day that makes you feel better about being on a medical campus than Match Day, maybe with the exception of the day that they get their white coats and there's a more solemn procession where they move into the ranks of healthcare clinicians and healthcare students. Has more of a solemn feel about it as they think about the major responsibilities they're going to be taking on. But for pure fun and joy and excitement, nothing beats Match Day. The role of medical schools in drug discovery and development has always been something that medical schools talk about, and why the investment into basic curiosity-driven research is so important. But it really has taken on a new level of importance as we think about the changes underway at NIH, at FDA, maybe even at CDC. What do I mean by that? If you see the cuts that are underway at NIH, many of us worry about cuts to the foundational sciences, to the basic discovery, because one doesn't know where discovery might lead all the time. It's been estimated in the literature that somewhere between 80 and 85% of all of the drugs on the market today can trace their origin to an NIH grant. Think about that. The vast majority of drugs on the market today can trace their origins to an NIH grant. Now, that doesn't mean something was necessarily discovered at a medical school, but what it means is a new pathway, a new molecular mechanism, a new drug, a new clinical trial, maybe a translational clinical trial that really was the first in humans. There's so many pieces of the NIH funding that come together to really move science forward, that medical schools, without a question, play a central role in drug discovery and development. The other piece not to forget about is the workforce. Where does the workforce come from that works not just in medical schools, academia, but also works in private industry, in the pharmaceutical industry, in the biopharma industry, in biotechnology? That workforce comes from the universities. They come from the PhD programs, the master's degree programs, the MD programs on our campuses. And so much of our leadership in science, particularly around things like new drugs, new therapies, new devices, come in some way from outstanding research universities and medical schools in the United States. What's the role of physician assistants in contemporary clinical care? It's integral to contemporary team-based care. All of us who take care of patients depend upon a team to work with us to provide the best care, evidence-based care, the most contemporary care. And that team is made up of people who have different educational backgrounds. A key component of it is the advanced practice clinicians. These are our nurse practitioner colleagues. These are our physician assistant colleagues. Here at Weill Cornell, we're really lucky that we have a fantastic PA program in the medical school. Of note, the PA program just was reaccredited for a period until 2033. And this was due to the tremendous leadership work of the medical school leadership, people like Mickey Stewart, people like Joe Safdie, but also new leaders of the PA program like Kelly Porter. So kudos to our PA program, kudos to our PA colleagues in general, and critically important part of the care team. We were so excited to announce the launch of the Weill Cancer Hub East. This was made possible by an incredibly generous donation from the Weill Family Foundation of $50 million. That $50 million is going to be matched by contributions, also philanthropic contributions from the 3 research universities that are involved. This will be a collaboration with Weill Cornell Medicine, Rockefeller University, and Princeton University. And it's been an amazing experience over the past year or so as we negotiated what this gift might look like with Mr. Weill, to get to know the leadership and the scientists engaged from Princeton and from Rockefeller. I particularly have to note the relationship with Princeton, because the relationship with Rockefeller is longstanding here at Weill Cornell. We share PhD programs, for example. We are literally neighbors right across the street from one another. But Princeton was a new relationship, I think, for many of us here at Weill Cornell, although not all. Our Cancer Center leader, Jed Wolchek, actually is a Princeton graduate. And so he was very pleased to re-strengthen those ties with his alma mater. I think what this is going to allow us to do is really to think differently about some of the ways we do team science. The expertise doesn't have to all reside on one campus. Expertise to try to address some of the issues that we're going to address in the Weill Cancer Hub will be things like cancer metabolism and immunotherapy. And so you might imagine that expertise comes from the different places. Computational expertise and insight into metabolism, a lot of it at Princeton. Basic cancer biology, a lot of expertise at Rockefeller. And translation in clinical science in cancer, and in particular in immunotherapy, here at Weill Cornell. So I think that this is a way for us to really think about how do we extend our reach? How do we extend our science, not just by accumulating things on our campus, but by reaching out to other campuses where that expertise might reside and building collaborations. And Mr. Weill is really great at thinking about collaborations, and this is another example of it. Question that I'm often asked is, how do you provide feedback in a meaningful way, whether it's negative feedback, or positive feedback. I like to think about all feedback being constructive feedback, whether it's considered to be positive or negative. But I'm going to steal a quote from my executive coach, who has told me over the years, when you're thinking about how to give feedback, she says you should be thinking about three things. Is it true? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And I've adapted that approach to my own way of giving feedback. Is it something that's true? Is this something that you really know is true about the person that you're giving the feedback to? Because that's the only really thing that matters, right? Is it something that you really want them to know because it's true? The second is it necessary? Sometimes you as a manager may get feedback about one of your staff, one of your employees, in my case, one of my faculty members, and you want to know, is it necessary to give them this feedback? Will this actually help them do their job? And I think that that's an important thing for managers to consider. And the final, which appeals to my style of civility and professionalism and respect for all individuals, is it kind? You can give even really tough feedback to somebody in a kind, caring, sensitive, and graceful way. And I'd encourage all of us to think about that. Is it kind? And how do you deliver it? I think when I try to deliver a message which is a tough message, I try to frame it around things that person does well. You've been doing so many great things, but I have to bring up with you this other piece that's come to my attention. I think if you're thoughtful about it and you really think, can I deliver this message gracefully with sensitivity and respect for that individual, I think you can pull it off. Oh, God, I was hoping somebody wouldn't ask the question of how I was doing in March Madness. I was doing so great in my family pool, and my Duke Blue Devils were doing so well. And then came the semifinals against Houston. And one of the worst 90 seconds of Duke basketball I've seen in my 35 plus years of being a fan occurred in the semifinals. So kudos to the Houston Cougars. Duke didn't just lose that game. Houston won the game. And kudos to the Florida Gators who beat Houston in the finals. It was a great tournament, always fun. Was great for our family. For a little while, I was leading in our family pool, and my three son-in-laws were really annoyed by that. I think one of my son-in-laws is quite pleased that he won. He picked the Gators to win, but he will be ostracized by the family because he was the only one who didn't pick the Blue Devils.